BBC Radio 7.
In today's A Short History of Ireland, let's hear why in the early 20th century Dublin went into decline and why the Unionists took up arms.
The Ulster Hall, Belfast, Saturday the 28th of September 1912. The Protestants of Ulster had set aside this day, Ulster Day, to show the world their determination to demonstrate their detestation for the Liberal government's third Home Rule Bill, now before Parliament. After prayers and lessons, the Presbyterian minister, Dr. William McKean, rose to deliver his sermon. He took as his text a verse from the first book of Timothy, "Keep that which is committed to thy trust."
We are plain, blunt men. The Irish question is at bottom a war against Protestantism. It is an attempt to establish a Roman Catholic ascendancy in Ireland, to begin the disintegration of the Empire by securing a second Parliament in Dublin.
All over Ulster, people emerged from churches and meeting halls to sign Ulster's solemn league and covenant. They were pledging themselves
to stand by one another in defending for ourselves and our children our cherished position of equal citizenship in the United Kingdom, and in using all means which may be found to defeat the present conspiracy to set up a Home Rule Parliament in Ireland.
At noon, prominent Ulster Unionists, led by Sir Edward Carson, walked to the City Hall. Its Portland stone gleamed in the sun. Greeted by the Lord Mayor, aldermen and councillors in their scarlet and ermine robes, Carson entered the vestibule and advanced towards a circular table directly under the dome. There, with a silver pen, he was the first to sign the Covenant. When he re-emerged, the reverential hum of the vast crowd changed to tempestuous cheering.
At 2:30 p.m, a procession of bands from every Protestant quarter of Belfast converged on the City Hall. All played different tunes simultaneously, producing an extraordinary cacophony. The Pall Mall Gazette recorded,
"Seen from the topmost outside gallery of the dome, the square below and the street striking away from it were black with people. Through the mass, with drums and fifes, sashes and banners, the clubs marched all day. The streets surged with cheering."
Bowler-hatted stewards struggled to regulate the flow of men eager to sign the Covenant. A double row of desks, stretching right round the City Hall, made it possible for 550 to sign simultaneously. Some signed in their own blood. Signatures were still being affixed after 11 p.m. Women signed their own declaration. Altogether, 471,414 men and women who could prove Ulster birth signed either the Covenant or the Woman's Declaration. In fact, over 30,000 more women signed than men.
At 8:30, a brass band advanced towards the Ulster Club in Castle Place. Its staff major and spear carriers had almost to carve a way through the surging mass to accompany Edward Carson's car to the docks. The vehicle was pulled down High Street by hundreds of willing hands. The Pall Mall Gazette reported,
"With a roaring hurricane of cheers, punctuated on every side by the steady rattle of revolver shots, onward swept this whole city in motion with a tumult that was mad."
At Donegal Quay, a fusillade of shots saluted Sir Edward as he stepped aboard the SS Patriotic. From the upper deck, he shouted out,
"I have very little voice left. I ask you while I am away in England and Scotland and fighting your battle in the Imperial Parliament to keep the old flag flying. And no surrender!"
As the vessel steamed into the Victoria Channel, bonfires in Great Patrick Street sprang into life. A huge fire on the Cave Hill threw a brilliant glare over the sky. 50 other bonfires blazed from hills and headlands around Belfast Lough, and salvos of rockets shot up into the air. Denounced as a silly masquerade by the Irish News, an impressive farce by the Freeman's Journal, and by the Manchester Guardian as anarchic hectoring by the Ascendancy Party, Covenant Day showed that Ulster Protestants were in earnest.
In fact, they were more in earnest than the general public, and indeed the government, then realised. As early as November 1910, the Inner Committee of the Ulster Unionist Council secretly sought a quotation from a German arms manufacturer for 20,000 rifles and 1 million rounds of ammunition. In March 1911, the UUC, including Carson himself, voted its first cash allocation for the buying of rifles. Carson urged the Council's inner circle,
I am convinced that unless a steady supply is started, we will be caught like rats in a trap.
The gun was returning to Irish politics.